Hello, hello. My name is Abbas,
And I'm Nainika.
and Rajshri and Abhinandan are away this week as well. So, welcome to the Awful and Awesome. We are the fill-in hosts, the seat warmers, if I may call us that. We have hosted this show before, me and Nainika, and we got a bit of a mixed reaction. So, I would just urge the listeners to give us one more try. We are not that bad. If you have started listening to the episode, please stick all the way to the end. Before I tell you what we're going to discuss, Nanika, how are you doing?
I am good, Abbas. How are you? How's the festive season coming for you?
It's pretty good. We're recording this at 8:20 p.m. and I still have morsels of things in my mouth, which I have broken my fast with. So yeah, I'd say it's good. So today we're going to be discussing a bunch of things, and there is a very important announcement which I'm going to be telling you. So let's go through the list of things we will be discussing. It's quite a handful. We'll be discussing the original Netflix film Dasvi, starring Abhishek Bachchan. We'll be discussing another Netflix original film called Cobalt Blue, which has been delayed quite a few times, but finally it was out last week, and both me and Anika had a chance to see, and I have opinions about that film. A third Netflix thing we'll be discussing is the Zoya Akhtar produced web show called Eternally Confused and Eager for Love. And we'll be discussing a bunch of Spotify ads which we have seen, which I thought were very cleverly done. And finally, we'll be wrapping it up with a new movie that's in the theaters. That's a thing we do again now, go to the theaters, or Nanika does.
Abbas did not
Because
get the opportunity to watch Lost City, but I did, so I will be talking about that.
So you're listening to episode 248 of Awful and Awesome. Next week will be episode 249. After episode 249, every alternate episode of The Awful and Awesome will be going behind a paywall. So for example, episode 249 will be behind a paywall. So episode 250 will be free. Then 251 will again be behind a paywall, and 252 will be free, and so on and so forth. So if you haven't subscribed to News Laundry yet, please do, like me and Nanika have, which means we will listen to every episode of Awful and Awesome. And
Including
who knows,
the
they
ones
might
that
put
we
the
record.
episodes with. I'm sorry?
Including the ones we record.
Including the ones we record, yes. And who knows, to actually get you to subscribe, they might pull Abhinandan and Rajshri behind the paywall, and we are the free ones. So if you want them back, do subscribe. But that's from next week. Let's get into what we're going to discuss this week. So, Nanika, what do you want to start with?
Dasvi, let's talk about that first.
Let's talk about Dasvi. So, Dasvi is the brand new Netflix film that stars Abhishek Bachchan. Who else is in the film?
Yami
There is,
Gautam and Nimrat
There's
Kaur.
Yami Gautam. Of course, there's Yami Gautam. Yes, we'll get into a bit of controversy.
There's
There's
Nimrat
Nimrat
Kaur.
Kaur.
And there's a bunch of good supporting cast, I think. But yeah, so Abbas, what did you think of the movie? Did you watch the whole thing?
Of course, I watched the whole thing. Who do you think I am? Abhinandan. I did watch the whole thing. So I'll be honest with you. I saw the trailer of the film and I got good vibes from the trailer. I thought this seems like a good sort of way to kill the time. Unfortunately, the film did not live up to my expectations. It was a very by the numbers sort of a story, which is okay. But there was nothing in the film that kept me entertained. I
Fair.
thought Abhishek Bachchan was very average. I thought Nimrat Kaur was good, but unfortunately her track was clearly the inferior track and almost like an afterthought. And I had some issues with the way they portrayed the jail prisoner life as well. So that's like my broad take on it. It was quite unimpressive for me.
I think I did not watch the trailer. I went into it completely blind. I just read the description that they had and I thought it seemed entertaining. It seemed like a cute, wholesome little movie that you watch. And I think it was meant to be that. It was not meant to be seen like particularly seriously. It was just supposed to be a movie that you view with your family. I think it tried I think it was trying to take the Munna Bhai MBBS sort of vibe that, it's like wholesome family entertainment, but it also teaches you something. But I feel like my biggest gripe with the movie is I feel like it's very poorly put together. I feel like it's very poorly edited and written. Not that I have as much of a complaint with the actors. I think like if this movie was better edited or slightly better written, the performances that you thought were mediocre would seem like better. Like they would seem above average. So I think like they really got, they got screwed over by whoever, did the post-production or processed it towards the end. It could have been, actually watchable. Like it could have been actually watchable if I thought it was better edited or better written. What do you think?
One of the writers of the film, if I'm not wrong, is also Kumar Vishwas. I don't know if the same Kumar Vishwas who's in the Aam Aadmi Party, but there is a Kumar Vishwas who gets a story credit.
Okay.
Yeah, so to run you down a very simple plot synopsis, it's about this controversial politician who is now who has now gone to jail because of what corruption. I don't even
Corruption
remember why he
charges,
goes to
corruption
jail.
charges. A scam was uncovered.
Yes, corruption charges.
It
and he has a
bordered
very,
the same, what the Haryana government, like the teacher appointment scam. So it was the same
Right.
thing. I felt like they were borrowing very clearly from Haryana and its political past or whatever. But yeah, essentially he goes to jail for that, and then that's how the story begins.
So he's the chief minister of this fictional state whose name I have
Harit
forgotten.
Pradesh, very close to
Harit
Haryana.
Pradesh. Like Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and everything in between.
A blend.
So of course he has a very subservient wife who he makes the chief minister before he goes to jail, which of course clearly is influenced by what Lalu Prasad Yadav did to his wife. And inside jail he gets all the preferential treatment because he's this big time chief minister, until one very hard nosed officer played by
Yami Gautam.
Yami Gautam comes and sort of puts him in line, and she kind of insults him for not being educated enough. She calls him unpad and पूछती है कहाँ तक पढ़े हुए हो, तो वो कहता है 8वीं, and he feels very insulted by this, so he decides he's going to clear
Appear
the
for
SSC
10th
exam.
boards.
10th boards, yes. And so then through the bulk of the movie is his sort of prisoner mates explaining him basic concepts of maths and science and all these things using politics, which are laughably bad.
It was really, really
yeah,
poor.
they I'm like sochiye aap, they could have done those
so
scenes
much
very
better.
well.
Again, I feel like very poorly, very hastily written. Same problem, right?
Yes.
Like explaining math and science, etc., through like metaphors of politics. How he starts learning history, where he would just like immerses himself
Oh
in
my
it,
God, yes.
and sees like
When
a
the
little.
film becomes Rang De Basanti
Yeah,
for a
for
good
sure.
15
He sees
minutes.
Gandhi, he sees Chandrasekhar Azad, Lala Lajpat Rai, and his, I don't know, hallucinations, dreams, whatever. That was laughably bad. And the point is, I understand like the reason to pick something, because again, it could be like kitschy and funny or whatever, but it was so poorly done. That's the whole problem with this film. That's incredibly poorly done.
Yeah, and while all this is happening, his wife, played by Nimrat Kaur, is getting power hungry on her own part, and she wants him to stay in jail. And
I like Nimrat. I like Nimrat Kaur in it.
that's the movie I want to see.
Yeah, I feel like also it could be also like just so hasty in general, like no explanation, nothing. He just randomly goes to jail. She just randomly becomes the CM. Then she suddenly decides to get power hungry. I mean, it was like weirdly paced, as in there's no explanation for what comes after. And I'm somebody who has like very low expectations of one thing explaining the other, because I also think the same way, but it's just like this made no sense and it was terrible. It was very difficult for whoever to watch. If you don't have an attention span, or if you look away from the screen for 5 minutes, I feel like this movie would stop making sense.
What did you think of Abhishek's Haryanvi accent?
See, listen, they need better accent coaches in Bombay. I'm sorry, but it's just they're so enamored by whatever happens in the hinterland, quote unquote, but like they do not have anybody who can properly teach them how to do accents well. I think the only time I've heard like a sort of Haryanvi accent done kind of okay is that movie that Arjun Kapoor and Parineeti Chopra had together, Sandeep or Pinky Farrar. But I feel like I think he had a particular accent coach for it or whatever, but he did a slightly better job. I feel like they're so enamored by a Bihari accent or what a person from UP sounds like, but they get it so wrong.
Yeah. It still sounds like a very affluent person trying to do an accent.
Exactly. It sounds like parody. It sounds laughably bad, and it's just not. Yeah. Like languages sound fine, even if it's like they're a little rough or harsh to listen to. They sound fine when somebody who is a native speaker speaks it. So yeah, that was bad.
There's one place in the movie where I genuinely laughed, where I will not give the joke away, but it's about the librarian. what the other inmates call the librarian. So that was a funny joke. उस एक joke को सुनने के लिए आपको picture देखनी पड़ेगी.
No, it's not
And
that funny. I'll be very honest. I'm going to be
uh,
nice to the listeners. It's not that funny.
you have high standards, Nainika. But we were discussing about this film, and Yami Gautam had problems about how in one review in Film Companion, the reviewer described Yami Gautam in a way which said something like she's not the dead girlfriend anymore, or something of that sort.
Yes.
And she highlighted that and said she doesn't deserve this. And there was a huge Twitter storm about that. So do you think Yami Gautam's coming after us now that we have dissed her movie?
Well, see, the point is, I did not realize, I only saw the chatter around the conversation. Like, people are talking about Yami Gautam, or just like how critiques in general are. And then today I went back and I reread it, and it just felt like she had a bad day. You read a review and it just like you genuinely, and she's right. Like, I mean, again, as I said, her performance could have been better if this was a better written or better edited film. I don't think she did that bad of a job. It was not, it's not going to get her an Oscar, but it's also not like so bad that it's horrible to look at. So yeah,
Right.
she just had a bad day and she lashed out at a review, which, I mean, it did. Like, it was written in a way that was slightly harsh, I suppose. Not that, again, I have any problem with a harsh review, because, again, that's the reviewer's job and that's how they see it and that's how they view it. That's perfectly fine. She just had a bad day. She tweeted something about it. But then the way, like, the conversation around it is so bad. I do not know if it's, like, Indian Twitter in general. And they're just, like Vivek Agnihotri quote tweeting it, like, this mafia of Anupama Chopra. Are you insane? What is that supposed to mean? So, she just had a bad day and now they're blowing it out of proportion because, I don't know, people are using it to pick bones with whoever they need to pick bones with the mafia of Bollywood, and how the reviewers have a toolkit, etc., etc. Good
So
for
do you
them.
know Vivek Agnihotri now has a YouTube channel which he launched like I think 3 weeks before Kashmir Files was released.
I'm not surprised, but no, please
So-
elaborate.
So there is a backstory to this which now I will introduce you to.
The lore,
So-
the lore.
So I have seen a couple of videos because I like to torture myself
Of
of
course.
Vivek Agnihotri's
Of
YouTube
course.
channel.
You wouldn't be a good
So-
reviewer if you didn't know. So
Exactly. So the research we do for you listeners
exactly.
of Often and Awesome.
And then you just come here and tell us that you don't like us.
So exactly, I think about a week or 10 days before Kashmir Files released, he put up a video on his YouTube channel, quote unquote, exposing Anupama Chopra and
Oh,
Film
God.
Companion. And that entire video is essentially Anupama Chopra's husband is Vinod Chopra, who's a Kashmiri Pandit. And it's a shame that he never did anything for Kashmiri Pandits. He made a film called Shikara, which was despicable and so on and so forth, whatever. And again and again, he kept saying that अब आप देखेंगे जैसे कश्मीर फाइल्स आएगी ये लोग हमारे को बुरा रिव्यू देंगे. So inside my head, I was like, in his heart, Vivek Agnihotri knows he has made a bad film, and he knows Film Companion is going to give him a poor review.
Well,
So
yeah,
he
that's the
already-
point, right? He's bracing himself for it and he's already creating the buzz.
Exactly.
That's called controlling
Yes.
the narrative. So big props to,
Yeah.
some people could take media training from what Vivek Agnihotri does.
So yeah, overall, very unimpressive. If you thought whatever we mentioned in the film was sounded ridiculous, the climax is actually even more ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
There is a stand-in for a youth leader, which I think is meant to be Rahul Gandhi, but he looks more like Sachin Pilot.
I got Sachin Pilot vibes from it. I never thought Rahul Gandhi for like a single second.
So I don't know what to say. It's just it's disappointing, really.
Do you feel
Because
like
they had a good premise.
Do you feel like, movies being released on Netflix and not having access to theaters probably the reason they're coming out like so underproduced and so poorly done these days? Like they just want to put a product out because let's sell it to Netflix because they'll give a big fat check and then be done. Wash our hands off of it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's the reason. Because yeah, I don't know how long ago this movie was made, but it clearly gives the other vibes I got were like, yeah, it just missed its theatrical window, and now
Yeah, for sure.
they just
Wanted to get
to
it out
go up.
there.
Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to Dasvi, how what
One to some
score?
great tax saving that Dasvi's producers managed to do. I don't know. I think I'll give it like a. But because I don't want Yami Gautam to be upset on my account, I will give it a 6. No.
Oh, 6 is not bad. I was
6 is,
thinking
like,
4.
as I said, I don't want Yami Gautam to be upset with me. But if Yami is in the mood to listen to a slightly harsher review, I think like a 4.5.
Yami, if you're listening to this, I hope we hope you had a good day.
Yeah,
Don't come
I
after
don't
us.
want to be, I mean, I know you worked hard. I'm sorry. So like a 4.5. But that's for the editing. I think you acted fine. Nimrat Kaur did significantly better.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to our next film that we're discussing, which is Cobalt Blue.
Right.
So from a very rustic sort of what do you call rural feel, let's go to a very, what should I call this, polished, modern sort
Pretty,
of film.
pretty.
Cobalt Blue, again, to give you a little bit of a background, is based on a book which was written by the same author who has directed the film, Sachin Kundalkar. The film was, I'm sorry, I'll take that again. The novel was written in Marathi and it was translated into English by Jerry Pinto. I know a couple of people who have read the book and loved the book. Also, I have mixed feelings about the film, but I would like to know from you, Nainika, what did you think of the film?
I think visually it's very pretty. It's very appealing to look at. Even the actors and everybody, I think they're very pretty to look at, which was a good thing. Like, you know, visually, a movie should feel good. Like, Dasvi did not feel visually good at all at any point. Cobalt Blue does get that right. I'd say it's like, I'm glad we now have, like, at least with Netflix or the advent of Netflix, there's technically quote unquote queer cinema that doesn't deal with just like the terrible politicized aspects of being queer, and it's just about love and heartbreak in a queer sense, which is also cute. Like, you do need that. I mean, whatever those stories are like, even if you like them or agree with them or whatever, it's good that there is the space for them to exist. Personally, I wasn't gaga over it, but I thought it was okay. It could be watched, and it seems it's cute. It evokes feelings of tenderness in you, which is good. I mean, it's supposed to be romance. It's not high romance that will get you, like, I wasn't a tearjerker or anything for me, but I thought it was still sweet. Like, I could watch it once with my friends.
Okay. Have you seen Ayya, which is the other film that Sachin Kundalkar directed?
Yeah,
starring
the Rani Mukherjee. Yes, my
Yes.
mother and I watched it, and we've been obsessed with that dialogue where she talks about her Shrikhand. And we thought it was a very strange movie, but we just randomly, like, it's been so many years, my mother and I keep quoting that Shrikhand to itna acha banati hai कि आप उंगली चाटते चाटते उंगलियां ही खा जाओगे to each other. So yeah, I thought Ayya was a strange but sweet film. Like, it felt so out of place that I warmed up to it.
Yeah, Ayya was. So I saw Ayya recently, like last year, I think.
Acha.
And it's exactly that. You know, it's in places it is really insane.
Yeah.
And even though it's a mixed bag, but when the film hits it hits it out of the park.
Yeah.
And my takeaway from Ayya was like, oh my god, this is such a horny, sexy film, right?
Yes.
Like you rarely get
the whole plot was the fact that she was obsessed with how the guy smells, which is like
Yes.
spectacular levels of horny for Indian cinema.
Yeah, in case if the listeners are having trouble remembering what film we're talking about, pause this podcast right now and please go to YouTube and
Oh,
search
God.
Dream of Wake Up Critical Condition.
And then the other song as well, the one where she's, I think it's supposed
the
to be
Ijjat Papad. The Ijjat Papad
Nahi, the
song.
one that's supposed to be her fantasy. She's wearing like weird.
Yes.
Which one
I know
was
what
it?
you're talking about.
What song
I
was
can't
that?
think of the title right now.
Wait a
But,
second.
I know.
I have to remember the name right now because it's a great
And
song. It's so incredibly.
Please
horny.
watch these songs. Don't just listen to these songs.
Yes,
'cause
it's a
the
visual. It's a
imagery
visual treat.
is very oily. To say the least.
Actually, yeah, it is. It's oily, not greasy in a disgusting sense. It's just like very glistening and.
Yes. So for me, it was like Ayya was such a horny film told from a female point of view,
Mhm.
right? And I think Cobalt Blue is not sexy enough. I needed it to have more eroticism in the film. So the film basically it's about this family which is living in Kerala, in Kochi, if I'm not wrong, and their grandfather, the patriarch of the house, the grandfather passes away, so they have an empty room which they give out on rent. So our protagonist, played by Neele Mahandale, and he has a sister, and they both fall in love with the guy who comes to live on rent, who's played by Pratik Babbar. So
Interesting choice.
yeah, I think there are multiple shots of Pratik Babbar shirtless. So if you're into that, go ahead and watch the film. But yeah, I mean the eroticism, the kind of relationship, and the the aspect that his sister is also in love with him, I thought came
Very
very suddenly.
underexplored, very underexplored. Like it just
Yes.
suddenly happens. I don't want to give any spoilers, but yeah, the pace of like her falling, because the person Nile Tane, who plays the character Tane in the
yeah,
film,
yeah.
he develops a relationship first, and then the sister, sort of the thing with the sister happens later. But it's sudden, like you don't even see it coming. It just happens out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so everything we've told you is already in the trailer, so we're not giving away any kind of spoilers. But there is this, I don't know, the film also comes across a little pretentious at times. There's this whole thing where he goes to a pond and talks to a frog,
Yeah.
and we don't see the frog. So I don't know. I mean,
Tortoise. And he calls him Pablo after Pablo Escobar
Yeah.
because he's a writer.
Yes. No, Neruda, after Pablo Neruda.
What am I saying, Pablo Escobar?
Not Pablo Escobar. He wasn't giving him drugs,
Neruda.
okay?
I do not. Sorry, I slipped completely. It was Pablo Neruda.
So yeah, the imagery of the film is beautiful. I mean, the film is called Cobalt Blue, so the shades of blue are very,
That was, I think,
very-
visually, as I say, very pretty.
Very pretty.
Use of blue is
It-
so lovely.
It weirdly reminded me of, in the early 2000s, we used to get these Indian films made in English. Sometime, like Mr. and Mrs. Iyer is a good one, but there would be a lot of
There was that
knockoffs.
one Aishwarya Rai film as well, right? Which there was one, right? Where
Liar's Dice. No,
something of that sort, yeah. Which was also like, had that like
Raincoat.
weird. Not
No,
Raincoat.
Raincoat was Hindi.
Yeah, Raincoat was Hindi. Like that weird sort of eroticism, that French cinema borrowed eroticism where it's just like.
Mistress of Spices.
Yes, which is such what an oriental sounding name. But yeah, something like that. But yeah, like that very French idea of eroticism where there's a lot
Yeah.
of weird, colorful shots and it's all slow moving and artistic and erotic or whatever. Just like, okay.
Yeah, and we just used to think that this is very intellectual just because it was in English. I don't know. I just kind of got that kind of a vibe. And about halfway through, I completed the film, but about halfway through, I lost interest.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
then characters were saying things and doing things that they probably wouldn't if they were quote unquote real. But I want to read the book because someone who I follow on Twitter, his name is Vivek Tejuja, who reads like 500 books in a year. This happens to be one of his favorite books of all time. So, and he's someone who reads a lot. So I am very, very curious to read the book. And interestingly, Sachin Kundalkar has actually distanced himself from the film because the film was supposed to debut in December of 2021. And without any explanation, Netflix kind of pulled it off the schedule and they just dumped it like last week. So interesting to see if they meddled with the film somehow.
Very possible. But did you feel that the ending was a little unresolved? Because I felt
I
so.
did, yes.
Because it's just
Even I
too
felt the same.
sudden, too weird. It just out of nowhere it happens. The sister storyline is left completely unresolved. So yeah, I mean, could have done a lot better with it. But again, I feel like this is a result of not the actors or the director not putting in the work, but I feel like the post-processing sort of gets it wrong.
Hey, so the rest of the podcast will be available in audio form on newslaundry.com or any podcasting platform that you prefer. So do check out the rest of the episode over there.
The subscription model is something that keeps News Laundry afloat, but we need hundreds and thousands of people to completely transform the news ecosystem. So you pay for news, so it serves you. So click on the link with this video, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free और गर्व से कहो मेरे खर्च पर आज़ाद है खबरें